Mr. Clerk, can I have roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Callahan.
Here.
Mr. Sierra.
Here.
Mr. Oswald.
Here.
Mr. Baird.
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Tolet.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons.
Here.
Mrs. Davis. Mrs. Keys.
Here.
Mr. Jesse.
Here.
Mr. Stewart.
Here.
10 present. We have an excuse for Mrs. Davis.
Can I get a motion for her excuse? Moved by Ms. Mitchell.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sarah. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Public hearings.
There are none.
Can I get approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sierra. Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Remarks and reports from city officials. Mayor Whitfield.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, council members. I have a couple items that I wanted to refer to committee on the floor. Council President, would you like me to do that now? So the two items are in regards to real estate. So we'll probably will need an executive session. One of them is in regards to Midway Mall, and the other one is in regards to property 1504 West Avenue as the two pieces of real estate. And there'll be some programmatic stuff as well, but I wanted to make sure it got on the agenda for committee to be discussed because things are starting to pick up pace.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mayor. Do you have any other comments at this time, Mayor?
Nope, but open for any questions.
Any questions for Mayor Whitfield?
Through you, Mr. President.
Yes, Law Director Deary.
Will these matters be going to committee then, or is action anticipated this evening?
Through you, Council President. Yes, there will be legislation that will need to follow on both of these items. So they will need to go to committee in order to be reviewed.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So we'll go a community development, I guess that's what we refer it to, but I guess community development finance? For those for the executive session, I would guess that would be if, I'm not really sure the.
Mayor, I'm sorry, through you, Mayor, were you looking to go into executive session this evening to discuss, or at the time that these matters go to committee?
I was thinking at the time of the committee meeting, we go into executive session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mayor Whitfield at this time? Okay, Safety Service Director Brubaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, and good evening, council members and residents. Just a couple quick items. We were a very slow leaf season over the last couple weeks, and then the last week it hammered us. So we will be running all 8 trucks it started today. We'll be running all 8 trucks. We usually run 2 to 3 on north of 57, and the balance of them are working the rest of the city. I know we've got a lot of calls, and I know the mayor has as well in regards, do you know when you're coming up or down our street? And we really don't. We do focus on the high tree areas. That's where the leaves fall the most, and where they continuously fall and get put to the streets. But I do know that throughout the city, the trucks have already scoured the city at least 3 or 4 times. Sometimes they're just driving around because there's nothing to pick up. But unfortunately, we don't set a schedule, but the trucks are out and about. But council members or even residents, if you get an area that, has a heavy load out on the streets, give me a call and we'll try to direct the truck that way. But that's kind of the process that we follow. Also, we are in active negotiations with 3 of our 4 unions, one of them the FOP. We did come to an agreement with them, and that is on the agenda for the next Finance Committee meeting, so we'll likely go into executive session to discuss that as well. And then the other 3, the Fire Union, we already had 1 meeting with them. We'll be meeting with them again this week. And then in early December, we have both EPPA, which is our patrolman, as well as AFSCME, which is our largest union in the city. We have them coming up in early December. So we'll keep you posted on that. And finally, as it was stated at a previous meeting, tonight will be Chief Whiteley's final meeting with us here in the city. His retirement date, his last day on station will be November 24th, and his last day as chief official will be December 1. The mayor and Safety Service Director's office are working right now to do something for him on the 24th at the police department. That's typically when the last day they pin the retirement badge and those kinds of things go on. But we're going to do something a little bit special for the chief on that day. There'll be a public announcement coming out of what that is, but it'll be open to council as well as the residents of the city of Elyria to partake in that. And again, through our public information officer and the mayor's office, we'll have information coming out on that. But we do congratulate Chief Whiteley on his many years of service with the city of Elyria. Thank you. That's all I have unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Brubaker? No? Thank you. Finance Director Plesky.
No report this time, Mr. President.
Law Director Deary.
Thank you, through you, Mr. President. I have no formal report. However, I would just like to once again congratulate Chief Whiteley and thank him. I've been very fortunate to work with the chief through many years, even when I first began as an assistant county prosecutor a few doors down, and he will very much be missed. And that's all.
Thank you. Any questions for Law Director Deary in regards to anything? No, thank you. Elyria Police Department, Chief Whiteley.
Good evening. As you all know, tonight is my last council meeting. I've been very lucky in my career. Ever since a little boy, I wanted to be a policeman, and the city of Elyria gave me that opportunity, and for 31 years, I've been able to live that dream. So I want to thank council, the mayor's office, going all the way back to the mayor that hired me under Mike Keys, and I think the safety service director was Arnold Tollett. So it goes back a ways, and I appreciate them taking a chance on me. I can tell you when I was a kid, it was my dream to be a policeman. It was not my dream to be the police chief. That kind of changed as the years went on. But everybody that has been so great to work with, it's made my job much easier. So I just wanted to say thank you. The next thing I got is today we promoted Patrolman Eric Grove to Sergeant Eric Grove. Eric's been on the department for quite a while. He's worked in many departments on the while with us. I truly think he's going to be an outstanding sergeant. He's got an excellent demeanor. He's a good speaker. He can talk to community groups and kids and adults, and I think he has the full package. So I want to congratulate Eric. That being said, we're going to have a lot of promotions coming up. So in the very next promotion is going to be Captain Bill Pelko. He will become the next police chief. I asked Captain Pelko to come. I'm sure you've probably met him, but officially to let you know that he's going to be the next chief. I do think you're in good hands. Bill has handled a lot of things. He does, the press. He works with the press. He works with investigations. He's been in services throughout the department. What other units have you been in? It's been a lot. Hostage negotiations. See, the list goes on. Very knowledgeable in a lot of areas, and I really don't think you're going to miss a beat with him taking over in my place. So I wish him luck. I wanted to introduce him to everybody, so he had an opportunity. Bill, if you want to say something, you're welcome to. If you just want to hold off to your promotion, you can do that too. Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. President, and congratulations on your retirement. I did get to drive by the police station, and I've seen the two new gates up in the front. I didn't get a chance because I was in a hurry to drive around back to see if that gate was done. Is that project 100% now? Thank you, Mr. President.
I would not say 100%, but like 95. Director, would you agree with that?
Through you, Mr. President, yes, there's just a few things to tidy up. There's some striping, I think, that has to be done, and some sealing of the parking lot. But I think we're going to be ready to go live with the gates, fobs, and whatnot here very soon.
Does look really nice. Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful job. I mean, whoever designed this did a great job. I know the engineer's office has been working heavy on it, and it's another thing. We work hand in hand with the engineer's office, and I think we got like 7 or 8 straight AAA safety awards, and they haven't done them the last 2 years. We'd have got 2 more. And a lot of that has to do with the engineer's office and what they do. So it's an outstanding job they've done, and really the parking lot and the fence looks spectacular.
Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, no questions. I just wanted to say congratulations. I appreciate you and thank you for all the help that you've given me over the years. Anytime I call and bug your eyeballs out, you always answered me. I wish you the very, very best. Congratulations to you and your wife. Captain Pelko, congratulations. I've worked with you, and I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have to tell you, when you guys call me up and give me stuff here, I'm not the one who does it. I make a phone call or send a text or an email, and the road officers and the supervisors are the ones that take care of it for me. So I get to take the credit for what they do, and they truly do a fantastic job. And for those of you who've never done this job, it's a very difficult job, and lately been highly scrutinized. And they just keep persevering and moving and doing what they're supposed to do, and very proud of what they do.
Mr. Tolet?
Through you, Mr. President. Very rarely does an elected official, a coach, a chairman leave something that they would say this, but you can say this. Our community's a better place because of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. And I'll Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. Chief Whiteley, thank you for your service. Thank you for always being there when I called. And we're going to miss you, but we want to wish you luck and Godspeed.
Thank you.
Good. And I'll follow it up. Chief, congratulations on your retirement, your career. Since I've been on council, you've been very forthright with me and very helpful in the position of the Leary Police Department. Your unwavering leadership during the most difficult time when Officer James Cursitor was killed says it's just a testament to you as a leader and as a person. And I wish you and your family nothing but the best of luck. You're going to be sorely missed, but I think, as you said, Captain Pelko is going to fill in nicely, and we look forward to working with him. So you're not only a colleague as far as the city administration, you're a dear friend of mine, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Good luck to you. Mr. Baird.
Yeah, Chief, I guess I'm probably the only one who was here before you were, since I've been here so long. And I've known you all these years, and you've been very professional, and I think that speaks well. I think you've done great jobs in moving the department forward, particularly with community policing, and that's why we have fewer problems. We aren't without problems, but we've had fewer problems because of your leadership and the staff that you have. So I appreciate it. Good luck and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, very good. Thank you, Chief. Lear Fire Department, Chief Pernesti. Assistant Safety Service Director, Ms. Calvert. Any questions? All right, very good. City Engineer, Mr. Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to update council on a few projects. Street resurfacing, we pretty much have all the streets done except for, I believe, Tannery Street, which should be done tomorrow, and possibly a little bit of asphalt over on Abbey Road. Other than that, we have adjustments to complete out there. I believe Phase 1 adjustments have been completed and they're already into Phase 2, so they're moving along with the concrete work as well. Also wanted to let council know that the Shane Building, the project is out for bid right now, so if everything goes as planned right now, we should be opening bids right before Thanksgiving, so I will be updating council on that probably in early December. So I guess with that, if council has any questions.
If I could, Mr. Schneider, in regards to some of the guardrail over there on Campana, is that all part of, do you know a timeline? It's right on Gulf Road, opposite
Road?
Campana, Antoinette, I
Yes.
believe. There's a stretch of guardrail there, as well as the guardrail at Gulf Road and opposite Hilliard. There was an area there that's kind of buckled up. I don't know if that's been taken care of. It's kind of, at this point, it's kind of hard to see at night, but I was just wondering on the status on that, is getting that replaced.
The northern section of Gulf Road, the guardrail is part of the project. The plan is to do it this week. The contractor, he got all the asphalt done late last week. They have some linear grading to do out there. They need to still do pavement markings, the guardrail. So they are working forward. If everything goes well, hopefully they'll have it completed this week. But it all depends on the rain as well as other factors. But the Hilliard Road guardrail, that is not part of the street resurfacing at all. I can reach out to the street department to see if it's on their list. I know they've done quite a bit of guardrail over the past month or two.
Yeah, if we can make that a part of your list to kind of inquire about it, and I'll follow up with you. Ms. Keys?
Yes, through you, Mr. President. It's not a question, but a comment. Since the streets in the First Ward have been resurfaced, I received many or several communications from residents expressing their gratitude and just really happy with the job that was done. So thank you very much for your diligence and for, everyone that saw it through to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keys. Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. President, to make a comment on that guardrail situation, I know that was in the project to get the ones that they're doing on Gulf Road, and I have been in contact with the street department, and he keeps telling me that when there's extra money left over, then he tries to fix some of these guardrails. He has fixed some on Ford Road. So they are trying to do some, but that's what I'm saying. It's probably the money thing, but you just have to keep bugging them to call them and tell them, so we can all do that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Schneider? Thank you, Mr. Schneider.
Thank you.
I believe that's everyone. Kind of canvassing the audience there. Mr. Corzad, do you have anything if you want to report tonight?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to take this moment to remember one of our employees at the wastewater plant who passed away unexpectedly about a week ago, Leonard Hildreth. He was one of our primary operators, a really great, phenomenal operator, and an even better person. He was so great at his job. We had trainees who we were ready to turn over to get additional training. We usually put them with Leonard because we knew that if we did that, that they would all be trained properly. Leonard was at the plant for just over 24 years, and so he was there just 2 years short of me at this point. But a really great person. I like getting with all my employees and talking and stuff like that, but Leonard was someone that he just really made my day to get with him for a while, and we talked about everything and anything, and he had a great sense of humor, but this was a shock to all the employees, and I just wanted to remember Leonard at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corzan. Please pass on our condolences to the family and their friend. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Scott, if you were hiding over and back over and through there, Director of Community Development, you have any report? Very good. All right, moving on. President's referrals. and remonstrances. Item number 1, to Community Development. Item number 2, Finance Committee. Item number 3, Finance Committee. Item number 4, Finance Committee. Item number 5, Finance and Utilities. Item number 6, Finance and Utilities. Items 7 through 9, received and placed on file in the clerk's office. Petitions and remonstrances from council members.
There are none.
Petitions and remonstrances from the lobby.
We have a couple. Teresa Shea, 519 East Avenue, the chief retiring.
Ms. Shea, please state your name and address for the record.
Okay. Okay. Do you want me to say it again?
Sure.
You do know who I am. Teresa Shea, 519 East Avenue. Okay, this is for Chief Whiteley. Many years ago, I met Chief Whiteley when he was a captain at a South Elyria community event, Breakfast with the Force. A very upset citizen was yelling about a problem she was having, perhaps with a criminal. Her voice shocked me, but Captain Whiteley sat across the table from her, calmly listening. It told me a lot about him. Over the years, I have learned a lot about being confident in handling difficult situations with people who mean me harm or criminal behavior. Chief Whiteley has supported community policing in the form of block watches and other excellent police officers. When I have gotten lost in a situation that has overwhelmed and gotten the best of me by criminals, nasty people, and occasionally misjudgments by police. You forgot your training, he said. All the puzzle pieces became clearer, and I would apply what I know. I will always wish you were the Chief Whiteley, but you leave me and the city in the hands of people who worked alongside you and share your values. Thanks again, and enjoy your new life. I speak for all the people who used to live in Elyria and all the citizens that have had contact with you.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Ms. Shea.
Tina Bayshak, 509 East Broad Street. Subject is East Broad Street project.
Mr. Basak, if you please state your name and address for the record.
Tina Bayshak, 509 East Broad Street. I'll apologize, I'm not a public speaker. I have raised several concerns regarding the East Broad Street project, to include most importantly the safety of elementary and middle school students at the Eastern Heights campus. Widening the road for a third turning lane moves the road closer to the sidewalks and our homes. Then adding an 8-foot shared use path in place of a sidewalk on the south side of the street leaves just too little of a buffer from the road for the safety of the children. Also, I feel the children would have a false sense of safety or security on a path that would actually cross 8 business entrances or exits, 9 side streets, and 40 driveways. That's 57 crossings, all in a 1-mile stretch from East River to South Abbey. A shared use path was never intended for this type of situation. The funding through NOACA was voted on in December of 2020, and the project also was awarded funding through the Highway Safety Improvement Program. Residents received a letter from the engineer's office in April of 2021 informing us that our properties would be surveyed for the proposed safety improvements that would consist of widening the pavement where necessary to accommodate a 2-way left turn lane. Improvements will include upgrading the traffic signals and improvement to pedestrian access. Yet the first mention of including a shared use path that I'm aware of was in the invite letter for the informal public meeting from the city engineer's office, October 14th, 2021. In the NOACA resolution number 2020-050, it states, whereas it is expected that the project sponsors will in good faith endeavor to address comments and recommendations raised during project planning review and will provide evidence of such prior to the project advancing. So I'm asking that we get a second meeting to schedule additional questions and discuss more details of the widening project. I'd ask that this meeting be held at 7 p.m. because our first meeting was 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. A lot of working people didn't make it. I have a lot more concerns. I've sent to everybody a letter with some of my concerns. I've got more. I took a ride and looked at Center Ridge Road in North Ridgeville. They've done something just about exactly like on the south side of the road, but it's near a high school. We have that beautiful new campus, and it's got 5-year-olds to 13-year-olds. That's a whole different group of kids. You know, they're distracted. They're going to be so close to the road, and somebody's going to get hurt. It just, it's just not right. I don't know if my time's up, but I mean, I've read a lot that says a lot of cities are narrowing their streets, highway diets or street diets. I just don't think this is appropriate for our neighborhood. And I'd like a second meeting to go into it further.
Thank you, Ms. Basak.
Thank you for the time.
Yes, thank you for coming up and expressing your concerns. I know in the meeting that we had, it was at, I believe it was either 4 to 5 or 4:30 to 5:30, I believe, or something along those lines. I was here, and it was, so I had mentioned something to, you know, at that time, I think, Engineer Schneider to say we can have a follow-up meeting because I think the plans were supposed to be developed or for more discussion sometime after the first of the year. And I know that there was a, if you will, a drop box, I think, that evening to some of the concerns for some of the residents, you know, the questions that need to be answered.
But if they were like me, there was no, I came up with a whole lot more after.
Sure, and that's kind of what it is. I think we want to make sure that there's a clear clarity on what's going on, what's being proposed. So I would recommend that as well, because I don't know, a lot of the council members weren't able to make it just because of that time frame. So I think the administration will revisit that meeting and see what was a good time that would be accommodation for, you know, for the residents and working that through on the status of the plans. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spacek.
That's all. Remonstrances from the lobby.
Reports of standing and special committees.
There are none.
Resolutions, first reading.
Sponsored by Finance. A resolution approving a list submitted by the Safety Service Director for the collection of delinquent inactive utility accounts and directing the Clerk of Council to certify said accounts to the Lorraine County Auditor.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Baer. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2021-30. Sponsored by Community Development. A resolution supporting the Leary Active Transportation Plan.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Simmons. Is there any questions been called? On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2021-31. Sponsored by Finance. A resolution finding that the city has unfit for City of Elyria municipal use certain city property.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Baird. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2021-32. That's all for resolutions first reading.
Resolutions second reading.
There are none.
Resolutions third reading.
There are none.
Ordinances first reading.
Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director of the City of Elyria to dispose of city property that is unfit for municipal use.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Baird. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-169. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the Finance Director to pay moral claim to Mark and Becky Haller.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Baird. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-170. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the Finance Director to pay a moral claim to Melanie Huskey.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Simmons. Mr. Baird. Jeez. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-171. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2021-50, known as the 2021 Permanent Appropriations Ordinance, to change funds in various accounts.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Baird. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-172. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the Finance Director to create a new special revenue fund.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Baird. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-173. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application for and accept, if offered, the Violent Crimes Reduction Grant Program from the State of Ohio, Department of Public Safety, Office of Criminal Justice Services, and declare an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Simmons. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-174. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending Elyria Codified Ordinances, Section 109.07, Division of Cemeteries.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Baird. On a suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-175. Sponsored by Community Development. An ordinance amending Section 1131.02 Codified Ordinances of the City of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance to rezone real property located Ridge Street, Elyria, Ohio, from R-MHH Residential Multi-Household and High Density District to B-G Business General District.
I declare this ordinance has its first reading, public hearing scheduled for December 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Elyria City Council chambers.
Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the adoption of the American Rescue Plan Policies and Procedures Manual for Essential Services and Business Services.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second by Mr. Sarah. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-176. Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. An ordinance amending the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, program year, plan year 2020 annual action plan, and declaring an emergency.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second by Mr. Sarah.
Question.
Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called on the suspension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-177.
176.
Oh, last one was
177, yeah, 177, 177. That's right, that's correct.
Right, I didn't, that's what I did. Yeah.
So this one is 176.
And this is 177.
Okay, never mind.
We're good.
Yep.
Rest of the story.
Sponsored by Utilities. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Elyria YWCA on behalf of South Park T-Ball to use city-owned real property at South Park.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second by Ms. Simmons. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-178.
Sorry.
Sponsored by Utilities and Finance. An ordinance amending Section 937.12, Schedule of Rates, Codified Ordinances of the City of Elyria, Ohio, to reflect established sanitary sewer rates.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second by Mr. Sierra. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay.
Through you, Mr. President, there's no emergency on this.
Yes.
No emergency?
No.
All right. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-179.
The sewer rates is 180. The sewer rate's 180? I dissolve count.
Miss the trees.
We do the tree service? The tree service. Okay.
We can do it now.
Tree services between South Park and sanitary sewer rates. Through you, Mr. President, we're just making sure we've got the numbers right. This was number 16 you just did on the agenda. Is that correct?
Well, right now, we must have.
That's correct, no.
Okay.
We had some legislation sticking together, so
Okay.
that's what happened.
All right, so we just did number
So
16.
We did 16.
So that will be ordinance,
So 16 will be 179?
oh, we haven't read 15 yet.
So do we want 180?
Because come back to it, I guess.
I would,
Can we switch it around?
as long as you
Could be, yeah.
doesn't matter to me, as long as you have them right. Make that one,
Pass it.
make 16 180.
Yeah. 16 is going to be ordinance 2021-180.
Which, that's the one you just passed?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't go back.
Yes. You go back to 15?
We are going back to 15,
Okay.
correct.
All right. We're going to go back to agenda item 15. Mr. President?
For clarity, so,
We did item 16 instead
Right.
of 15. The legislation was sticking together with all the
All right.
file clips, so.
The ordinance that just passed to amend section 937.12, that will be ordinance 2021-180.
right. Is everyone clear on that from council? Okay, very good.
All right, so item number 15, sponsored by Utilities and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a 2-year contract for the tree service for the city of Elyria and declare an emergency.
Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any further discussion?
Question. Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-180.
Should be 179.
Yeah, 179.
Be
It should be
179.
179.
179.
Is everybody clear on that?
Yeah.
Very good. 179.
Is that the cart before the horse?
Okay.
Last one.
Okay. Sponsored by Utilities and Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2019-193 to establish the rates of water charged inside and outside the city of Elyria.
Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sierra. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-181. That's all ordinances first reading.
Ordinance is second reading.
There are none?
Ordinance is third reading.
There are none.
Committee calls.
Under here.
Community Development requests the Law Director, Safety Service Director, Building Inspector, and Engineer on Monday, 11/29 at 6 p.m. All items referred, council chambers. Joint CD Finance requests the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Monday, 11/29, beginning at 6 p.m. All items referred. Finance requests the Mayor, the Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Monday, 11/29, immediately following the joint. All items referred. Utilities, Safety, Environment requests the Law Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Monday, 11/17, 6 p.m. All items referred. And Strategic Planning requests the Mayor, Safety Service Director, Finance Director, and Law Director on Monday, 12/6, immediately following council meeting. All items referred.
So just point of reference, the utilities will meet on Wednesday at 6 p.m. All right. Miscellaneous and unfinished business. Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. President. I had a resident that lives down in Windsor, which is by Abbey Road. He has a problem with the neuropathy in his feet. He's in a wheelchair some of the time. He's got a motorized scooter. He needs to go to the VA. So he's been trying to take his motorized scooter from Windsor down Abbey and the sidewalks all the way to the VA. When he comes to the college property, he has to either go out in the street or go in on the side where the drive is for the college. He approached me about possibly seeing what we could do about getting a sidewalk that would run on their property. So I guess I said something to Councilman Sir, that's his district. He is on board to help me out. I know the mayor's got a very good relationship with the college. Anybody else that has some ins that we could do something that maybe they could pay for, of course, we would like them to do that, to put a nice, maybe 8-foot walking shared use path on your property. So then that way he can get all the way through to the VA. I guess in conversation, we thought that maybe their student body or their student council had already discussed this. So anything that anybody can do about helping me, please contact me or anybody here in the city so that we could possibly get a street there or a sidewalk there in the front. Thank you, Mr. President.
So I guess my thing would be is, we should probably have that referred to a committee, utilities, so that, we can bring all parties together to kind of discuss and get a plan moving forward that would be best to, resolve the situation, what we can do to help out that. So if that can get referred to utilities. I don't know if that will be ready for the next meeting or if that would be the following meeting, just to make sure that we have all the information. Mayor Whitfield?
Yeah, through you, Council President, that's what I was going to suggest. If we could do 2 meetings from now so we can get all the players
Yeah.
involved, that'd be great.
Yep. Anybody else with miscellaneous and unfinished business? If not, hearing none, Mr. Baird?
Hearing no further business, move we adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sayre. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion
Happy
carried.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Is that coming up already?